Okay, hey everyone, it's SaaStr. Super excited to dig in on our latest What's New with Secureframe. We have founder CEO Shrav Mehta here today. Shrav, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jason.
And Secureframe's a breakout leader in next generation compliance, in particular stuff that I'm passionate about for founders, which I call it getting your compliances done. It's more than SOC 2. There's a bunch of other stuff, but I think how to get these compliances done earlier, more efficiently. I actually don't think it's a boring topic. I think it's a fundamental product, especially in a tougher world where deals are more competitive. I'll tell you a quick story. I was just catching up with a second-time founder who had taken his company public and was worth billions and was doing another company. And he was basically doing a freemium product. And I was like, dude, why don't you just walk into an Adobe or a Cisco and just close a six-figure deal? Even if your product's not there, they'll buy from you.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, but we're not like SOC 2 compliant. I'm like, ugh. You're a great founder, but you've done you've got 20 million in the bank. And so it's a funny story of sequencing this stuff, right? So let's step back, and I want to dig into how the space works, but let's go very basic for a minute, right? What is, like, from a compliance perspective and tied into Secureframe, what do you got to do your first year as a new startup, as a founder, first year, or maybe your second year, third year, but what's table stakes for first year if you want to close bigger deals, if you want to check the box on a security audit, if you want to check the box on an enterprise customer? What do you have to get done in this day and age?
Yeah, no, totally. I think SOC 2 is often seen as that like critical standard for software SaaS. If you have customers in your pipeline that you're trying to close, procurement or someone is going to hold you up at some point if you don't have a SOC 2 or ISO 27001 or one of these similar certifications. And quite frankly, I think there's this myth where it's, if you're selling to enterprise clients, you're going to get stopped. But honestly, these days, it's a necessity for mid-market customers, for SMB customers. So the short answer I'd give here is the moment you're ready to go to market, and take on customers, like, get a SOC 2, and that's maybe probably year one or sometime in that range.
Yeah, my general view, my learning back in the day as a founder, my general ruling is you're gonna lose like a 50K deal.
Oh yeah, totally.
Someone's gonna lose you're gonna lose a 50K deal where no matter how cool your 10x feature is, you're not going to do it. Okay, and back us through. Let's imagine let's talk about the impact. How much time? How much energy does it really take? And let's go beyond SOC 2. Let's talk about the core package. But how much energy and effort does it take these days going into 2024, and by whom? Who's got to do the work, and how much time and energy does it take?
Yeah. It doesn't really take that long if you get it done earlier in the process. For example, as you get bigger and bigger, you're going to have more employees that have to go through security awareness training, that have to get background checked. You're going to have more services and products to get properly secured. And that's just going to take a lot longer. You can get something in place from day one, very early on. It honestly could just take you just a couple days to get everything ready. Now, as you grow, of course, we see companies take 3-4 months. Now, with something like Secureframe, what Secureframe does is we integrate with all your core business systems. So we'll integrate with AWS, Google Cloud, GitHub, your HR systems. And we'll try to automatically pull down all of this evidence that you're meeting these requirements and show you where there are gaps. And previously, you do all this stuff in spreadsheets. You go down a checklist, you'd see, hey, do we have our S3 buckets encrypted? And you could see how doing that can take a very long time. Now, with Secureframe and the advent of APIs over the last few years, we can automate a lot of these processes, and it can take you way less time than it used to.
How far, and I just don't know this, how far these days can you get on the SOC 2 checklist using APIs and integrations? How much of the work if you had to ballpark, how much of it do you not have to do as a human being today with the spreadsheets and the rest?
Yeah, so it really depends on how you do your SOC 2. So SOC 2, it's not like a very rigid set of requirements. This is exactly how you do something. It leaves a lot of room for flexibility in how you define your InfoSec program. So if you have something more complex than we typically see, there might be less things that can be automated. Now, with Secureframe, we try to automate like 80 to 90% of the process. Now, there's always going to be things that you have to do manually. For example, there is like a control and test that we have around uploading like board meeting minutes. I don't really know how you automate that, so we ask you to upload it. Like, maybe we can integrate with your DocuSign, but that's probably like a waste of time for everyone because there's all sorts of other things in there. Generally, what we see is around like 80 to 90%, but it depends on how you define your SOC 2 and scope it out.
Now, I should know this, but maybe it's a small point, but if you have to upload your board meeting minutes, which I guess I should have known and I didn't know, does anybody actually read them during the review, or is it just to make sure you go through the process of having it together?
Yeah, so SOC 2 is definitely a lot more about process
Yeah.
than exactly what you do, but it's making sure you have a process for your business that secures it in a way that meets the SOC 2 standard. Board meeting minutes, like when you upload that piece of evidence, an auditor will review that. What are they reviewing it for? Like more so that you have that process in place, that you're doing the things that you commit to more than anything else.
And last question on some of the basics. If I'm worried about this, how can I minimize the burden on my CTO until I have a CISO or a dedicated team? How can I minimize the burden on her or him?
Yeah, the first thing I'd be thinking about is obviously using Secureframe. You can get compliant much quicker with us than the traditional ways of doing everything manually. Yep. We've had many customers configure and automate things in just a few days. We highlight everything that you have to do, verify that you've done it, and you're basically good to go with your audit after that. Now, if you're expanding and scaling and you're closing more deals, it may justify a full-time hire to take the load off the team. We usually see this happen around 50 to 100 employees. Now, if you're in fintech or some highly regulated industry, you're probably going to be doing these things earlier.
Yeah.
And typically this falls on the CTO side of the house. By the time you have 50 to 100 employees, you're probably hiring an IT manager, maybe a CISO. It really just depends. But when you're using something like Secureframe, it doesn't take as long to do as it used to. Of course, it will take longer as you grow and scale. That's when you can hire someone.
Yeah. And then year 2, what happens?
Yeah, it really depends. So in years 2 and 3, maintaining and enhancing your compliance becomes a part of the operational rhythm, as we like to call it. Continuous monitoring is critical to ensure that you have your compliance initiatives met all the time. Your customer doesn't really care that you're meeting these requirements before the audit or before they're actually your customer and doing the procurement or security review, as much as when they're actually your customer. They want to make sure it doesn't get tossed out the door. So you're continuously staying compliant and getting these certifications every year. Now, if you are complying with a standard like ISO 27001, which is more common in Europe, Australia, these are typically purchased in a 3-year set. Year 1 is like a full-on certification audit. And then in years 2 and 3, what happens is what we call like a surveillance audit. And it's a bit less intensive and simpler to keep up with. SOC 2, it's just the same audit every year. But if you have everything in place, you're maintaining it, it really shouldn't be that burdensome.
Okay, now and this next question I should know the answer to, but I don't. What are best practices around doing the SOC 2 and the ISO 27001 today? Like, do you want to do them together? Do you want to do them at the exact same time? We're all selling global, right? With that, other than a handful of exceptions. So what are best practices these days?
Yeah. So look, if you know that you need both of these certifications, or technically SOC 2 as a report, then you want to get ahead of it and try to do both at the same time, because there is 70, 80% overlap, again, depending on how you scoped out both of these frameworks for yourself. That number can vary, but there is like a lot of overlap. Oftentimes, if you know you need to get both done, we tell people to get it done at the same time and just kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, the way you determine whether you need these is like SOC 2 and ISO, they're very similar. SOC 2 is a lot more common in the US. ISO 27001 is a lot more common if you have customers in Europe, Australia, and other territories.
But we all are going to have customers in Europe and Australia these days, aren't we?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and a lot of those customers, so this is also where your customers are based, not necessarily where the company is based, which is a common misconception. Oftentimes, these customers in Europe will take a SOC 2 because they know it's similar. Sometimes they won't. It really just depends on what your customers are asking for.
I see. I haven't, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit. I haven't seen in the real world that a European-based European customer, they can just rely on SOC 2?
They're both very similar standards. Like a lot of the requirements and the things that you're doing for both are the same. Or if you're dealing with a global company like Cloudflare, I was looking at a security questionnaire that they had sent another customer the other day. They said, hey, we'll take SOC 2 or ISO 27001. So sometimes you even see the optionality. Yeah.
Okay. What's for going forward for the future from a CEO, founder, CTO perspective? What are the big headaches coming? What's getting harder next year? Where's the bar going up that possibly even we're not aware of? What's getting tougher?
Yeah. Ultimately, there are a lot of security requirements, a lot of frameworks to comply with. There's all sorts of privacy standards coming out, and that's a lot to keep up with. So I think there's just going to be a continued increased scrutiny on security and privacy. You're seeing data breaches happen all the time.
It's terrifying, right?
Yeah. It took their stock down like 15 15% or something like that. Don't quote me. These are having like real world impacts. So I think we're just going to continue to see this more and more, and there's just going to be more things to comply with.
Got it.
Hopefully we can make that easier.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, take us out and then even a little bit further, both in this overall space and it's Secureframe in particular. What's coming in the next 12, 18 months? I just asked you what's getting harder, what's getting easier, what's coming that's going to make our lives better.
Yeah. Along some of the same lines, like security, privacy, compliance, all of this will become even more important for every business. This is a trend we've been seeing for several years now, and getting these certifications will be table stakes for a company's InfoSec program. And the bar is only going to get higher. There's going to be more scrutiny. On a bit longer of a time horizon, one of my hot takes is that SOC 2 may not be around in 10 years. It itself was a different framework 10 years ago, and it only got popular very recently and
Yes.
really took off in the last 2-3 years. These standards always change, as they should. Technology is changing. And at Secureframe, we like to be framework agnostic. We focus on supporting all of a company's security and compliance workflows and initiatives. But yeah, along those lines, I think there's just going to be a lot more scrutiny. There's going to be a lot more frameworks to comply with. And the technology and the things that we have to do to stay compliant are just going to constantly be changing, and we have to be ready for that.
Got it. Okay, that's super helpful. And what we were chatting about it briefly before we started. I know sometimes we can almost we're overloaded talking about AI, but we've got to talk about AI because it's half of what we're talking about. Well, how is AI gonna change the space, or how is it beginning to?
Yeah, so personally, I think AI and security are the biggest spaces in software, at least over the next decade. I think AI is a bit more self-explanatory. We've been doing a lot of work with it even before LLMs became a lot more mainstream. We built our questionnaires product to use AI to automatically answer questionnaires using data from the core Secureframe platform. We actually launched that, I think, at not this year's SaaStr, but the previous year's SaaStr. And it was in beta much longer before that. We launched Comply AI to help customers remediate compliance gaps. We recently launched an AI-powered risk product just last week, which is a game changer in the GRC space, government risk and compliance. And we have a whole lot more on the roadmap that we think will change the industry. Now, speaking more towards the security aspect, I think security is, again, one of the largest spaces behind AI. There are always going to be more and more attackers, more and more breaches, and more reasons to have a heightened security program. Gartner's newest IT spending forecast, I think, was just released a couple of weeks ago. They said that IT services is projected to be one of the fastest growing categories of 2024. It's growing 10%, from last year. But 80% of these CISOs said that they plan to boost their spending on cyber and information security. And a lot of that was because they think that there's going to be a huge collection of new threats from these AI-enabled cyber attacks. So there's just going to be a lot of spending in this space. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity at the intersection of AI and security. And it's definitely one of the things that we think a lot about at Secureframe.
Okay. Now, just a few interesting questions about Secureframe as a vendor. We talked a little bit about both CTOs and CISOs, right? Mm-hmm. Where's the line? You sell to enterprises and SMBs, but SMBs are really startups, right? What's the line, and how do you work with both? I get there's an overlap in the circle, but in my limited experience working with CISOs and CTOs, it's pretty different, right? Mm-hmm. It's pretty different what they're looking for, how you interact with them, what they want. So what do the two groups want here from you?
Yeah, on the SMB side, a lot of these folks, they come to us because they get a security questionnaire or something that says,
I need to solve this problem.
We need a SOC 2. We need to solve this problem. So all they care about is getting SOC 2 compliant. They do care about the security aspects of doing that. But they want to get it done, quickly. They want to get it done efficiently, and they don't have any resources to get it done. So they really rely on Secureframe's automation, the depth of our integrations, to get all this across the board. Now, when we're speaking to CISOs and CIOs and IT managers at these larger enterprises, they oftentimes already have a SOC 2. They're not looking to they are looking to get another SOC 2, but they already have an existing process. So what they're oftentimes looking for is, hey, how can we save a lot of time, especially as our program is scaled? What can we automate? Can we automate the collection of evidence from AWS that's spending hundreds of hours of our team's time to do today? So they care about some of the same things, but what they're really focused on tends to be a bit different.
These almost sound to me like radically different channels, right? There's overlap in terms of functionality, but are you marketing completely differently to the two segments?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
On the SMB side, a lot of the messaging is around, hey, let's get you SOC 2 compliant. Let's
Yeah.
help you do it quickly. On the enterprise side, they don't really care about getting it done quickly. They already have a SOC 2. They want to get more efficient with how they do it. They want to automate a lot of their enterprise workflows. Saying something like, hey, let's help you get SOC 2 compliant in weeks, not months, is not that appealing to them at that level.
What is now, and again, a little bit of this is my ignorance, for a startup that wants to close a 50K deal and all of a sudden they need a vendor to solve it, that is disruptive. Like, I totally get that. What I'm just more ignorant about is in the enterprise, what are you disrupting? Because you don't, they have solutions. It may be kludgy, it may require consultants and vendors and a lot of money, but it's getting done, right? So what is the 10x feature, or what's the disruption in the enterprise?
Yeah. So the vast majority of these enterprises are still doing everything very manually. They might be using some of these traditional GRC solutions, but those traditional GRC solutions are a little bit better than a spreadsheet in most cases. With Secureframe, we do a lot more with integrating with all your core business systems. We automate a lot of different workflows. We have editors for your policy. We have all sorts of things to make the process much simpler for you to do. And even in these enterprise GRC tools, like you still find a lot of these teams working outside them in spreadsheets, doing a lot of the stuff that we do very manually. So that's really the appeal, is get off spreadsheets into something more scalable and software that's really going to help you automate these workflows. That's not just something that's a little bit better than a spreadsheet, right?
I got it. So some of the competition is your traditional GRC suite, right? That handles everything, right? At least in theory. In theory, it handles everything, right? And so you've got a much better framework. You've got to get them to free up some budget, but you've got a much better tailored framework. Okay, that makes sense. Is it different sales teams that you have? Do you have different sales teams doing these motions?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So we have an SMB, mid-market, an enterprise sales team that's all segmented from the SDR, up.
And have you been doing it? It's just a classic. How long has Secureframe been in market? 3 years or something like that?
Yeah, a little over 3 years now.
Have you seen enough of the SMBs and others get big enough so that they've grown into some of your largest customers and enterprise customers? Are you seeing that? Or are you trying to directly hit? I know the answer is both, but is it worth investing in SMB still?
Oh, yeah, totally. The thing is, once you get something like Secureframe in place, you have your compliance operational rhythm, and you probably don't want to make a lot of changes until your security program needs to get more sophisticated. So acquiring customers at the SMB stage is always great. A lot of them just come to us fairly organically today. So there's no reason to say, hey, sorry, we can't serve you. And many of them have, scaled with us quite significantly. And they've expanded with us, bought some of our other offerings, like our questionnaires product or our trust product or our risk product. So they oftentimes need more of these things as they grow and get bigger with us. But yeah, absolutely, we plan to serve the S side in the future and as we continue to scale.
No, it's good to hear. I think as in some cases, not all, as in some cases, portions of budgets have gotten tighter over the last 18 months. We've seen folks get very narrow or myopic, right? Sometimes they drop the SMBs because the deal size is smaller, it's more work, right? Sometimes they can go the other way. But it just strikes me intuitively that if you're building something like Secureframe, you want to get the fast growing companies.
Yeah.
Right? No one in their right mind really wants to change vendors unless they have to for some reason. So if you actually deliver, you can have a 10-year customer here.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think one of the things that was really valuable for Secureframe, as detrimental as it seemed at the time. So we were started right when COVID hit. I think we got a term sheet and I had just signed it the day San Francisco shut down. And I was like,
it was a great time. It was just a great time.
The money is coming. But it was just really hard to sell software. So you knew if someone really needed it or not. And part of the history of Secureframe is before we even started, we had about 30 to 40 customers in line waiting for Secureframe. And now one of the things I tell founders is, hey, if you don't have at least one person that is willing to pre-purchase your product that you don't know, or that's not like a friend doing you a favor, then the market might not be big enough, or you might not be talking to the right person. But if the market is huge, you got to be able to find just one person to pay upfront
One
for your product
unaffiliated
before it's
customer.
built.
One unaffiliated customer.
Yeah, before it's even built. And that way, whether it's worth spending time on engineering resources and stuff to build it out.
Yeah.
But with Secureframe, we had 30 to 40 during a very tough time to get customers. I think 2021 was a much easier time and people were throwing money left and right. Budgets were a lot bigger. They weren't getting scrutinized the same way. And I think all the people selling in 2021 that were doing really well and weren't in 2022 really understood what parts of their product were critical and whether they were a critical need for the audience they were serving.
All right, two last questions that are very Secureframe specific. One, it is a crowded space. There's a lot of vendors, right? Why do you win? You can't win every deal, right? I know you want to win every deal. Where do you really stand out? Where do you really win against the rest of the market?
Yeah, it's like they're saying, if you're winning every deal, you're not enough.
You're not enough deals.
Not in all your competitors' deals. Exactly. It's straight from the SaaStr blog. Our thesis with Secureframe is really that the last 10 years has been about the unbundling of software. And there's pretty much a point solution or microservice for everything. And we believe that the next 10 years is going to be about the rebundling of software. And with other companies in our space, you have to go to a different vendor for your readiness, your security awareness training, your security questionnaires, your trust center, your risk management. And that's a lot of vendors to manage and integrate. And it never integrates nicely. Never.
A lot of it.
Exactly. At Secureframe, we keep this all under one roof. And we still integrate with a lot of these other partners. If you want to use something like KnowBe4 for your security awareness training, you could totally do that and skip out on our offering. I think of it very similarly to AWS's suite of like infrastructure products. You can pick and choose what you want, but the value is that it's all integrated and plays nicely with each other in one suite. And you hear about it every day. Businesses are consolidating vendors and their spend left and right. They want everything to be much simpler in one place. We also have deeper integrations and automation where it really matters. I think the core value of Secureframe is being able to automate a lot of these enterprise workflows and things that just bog teams down with unnecessary manual and repetitive work. But ultimately, we win by building the best product backed by our team of security and compliance experts and executing relentlessly on that. There's no substitution for relentless execution and hard work.
Yeah, it is funny though, if the goal is to be the most comprehensive vendor, even if you use other vendors for pieces of it, it is interesting how it's the revenge of the suite today, right? Vendor just had a report saying that last year, 70% of their spend went to existing vendors and renewals. It's 80% in 1 year. 80%. So yeah, the cloud budgets are growing 10%, 12, or more for Gartner, but your existing vendors are absorbing all of it. So the more you can offer, it's the winning play. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Even for us at Secureframe, when I think about, we're very cheap internally on the software and everything that we do, and we don't like using 5 to 6 different tools that every team isn't using. So we standardize everyone on G Suite, on Slack. We try to use the tools that we have very precisely. Like if something can 90% be done within like Google Workspace, like we're going to use Google Workspace, even if there's maybe 10% value add in that software tool that we're considering purchasing. I think that speaks a lot to like how we consider consolidation just even internally.
It's the sign of the time.
Or buying new vendors.
One last question, and then I'll ask you if we missed anything is the final question. But the penultimate question, going back to the beginning, let's go back to the SMB side. I'm a founder. I got a 200K deal that just came in. Like, it's amazing. How fast can I get my SOC-2 done? And can I throw more money at it? Can more money get it done faster, or does that not help? Let's say it's a 200K deal. I want to get it done. I want to close it in 2 weeks. What's the fastest if I drop everything, I can get this process done?
Yeah, we've seen people get ready for the audit within a day or two. And if you can get on the auditor schedule right away, and it may take only a day or two to get ready if you're a smaller company, under 10 employees or something like that, you can get ready in a day or two. And then if you can get on the auditor's books, like right ahead of time, and you schedule it all perfectly, you might be able to get everything done in a week and a half. The auditor still has to take some time to review all the evidence and everything. But yeah, you could get done pretty quickly.
Cool. All right. That's good to know. That is a learning for me. All right. Did we miss anything that's new? Did we miss anything new?
No, I think that covers it. If you're looking for, if anyone on SaaStr is looking for security and compliance help or help getting their SOC 2, check out Secureframe. We're always happy to help. Everyone
is looking for it. I'm the last thing you want to do is not close that 200K deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's instant budget validation.
Instant budget validation. Cool. All right, man. Thank you so much, Rob, for the time. This was really great.
Of course. You too.